Good day and welcome to Ramble On, Armidale Regional Council's podcast.
Perhaps the Armidale Mall stage might be known as the Pringle Chip going forward.
It cost a lazy $2 to $3 billion to build. So I have to say I don't have that sort of change. So no.
Probably the best $4 million we've ever spent. Good day to our loyal listeners and welcome to Ramble On, Armidale Regional Council's podcast. This is where we try and get out and spread the good word about what's happening from an Armidale Regional Council perspective. This must be, well, we know it's season 2 and it's got to be at least episode 8 from where we are, but I'm sure the comms team will correct me if I've got that wrong. But as usual, I am here with my podcast co-host, the Mayor of Armidale Regional Council, Councillor Sam Copeland. Welcome, Sam.
Oh, thanks, James. Always good to be back. And, geez, 8 episodes deep this season. That's excellent.
Look, hopefully I've got that right.
It feels like
it. It feels like 8, yeah.
James, let's open the batting. A couple of myth busts.
Please.
And it'll have to come back to you because they're mostly operational. So the first one, Fresh and Save. So this is a new development in what was, I still think of the Kmart Plaza, but it's probably called Central Plaza.
Yeah.
People saying council stood in the road and stymieing investment. Can you tell us what's going on there?
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks, Sam. Well, I mean, I guess as usual, social media loves to blow up and talk about all the bad things that council does, and I know that there was a rumour floating around that the assassination of Kennedy back in 1963 was down to Armidale or former iterations of Armidale Regional Council. None of that's true, though.
They did dredge the creek, didn't they? The creek lands for the gun?
Yes, indeed. Yes, no, they did, and nothing was found. So we hopefully we have bust that myth. But certainly in terms of the Fresh and Safe stuff, there's been a lot of negativity towards council, none of which is true. That development was approved in March 2023. Construction by the owner of the business started in May 2024, and unfortunately to this point they haven't received applied nor received construction certification for that. So essentially those buildings are currently illegal, and our team have been working tirelessly with that group to try and regularise that development, get it legal, get the appropriate regs and fire safety and all those sorts of things in place. And unfortunately, that wasn't happening, and we needed to issue a stop work order back in June to that effect. I mean, the last thing that we can do, and I spoke about this at the Ratepayers Association meeting earlier this week, the last thing that we can allow is for an illegal building to be constructed, have the good folk of Armidale shopping in there, and something goes horribly wrong, and lives are lost. That's not what we're about. We're pro-development. We want to do everything that we can to make sure that that everything that can occur and wants to occur in Armidale can, but we can't turn a blind eye to illegal buildings. Now, to the credit of the owners of the business and the management at Richardson's Arcade, they have come out recently and corrected the record and said that council are working constructively with them in every way to try and make this happen. But I think it's just important that people know that whatever's happening there is not happening as a result of anything Armidale Regional Council's done. And again, all of that can be verified by fact very, very easily.
So the construction certificate, is council the only one that can issue that, or can you get other certifiers?
The developer has the option of a council being the certifier or getting a private certifier. So there's a couple of options there. And then, of course, with the fire safety, for instance, New South Wales Fire Brigade need to sign off on that and do their inspections. Right. And there's a couple of other those things that sit outside the council. But essentially, look, I hope, based on what the builder and the business have said, it sounds like they're taking us seriously now and they're doing what they need to do. So it will open when it's compliant, and we can't allow it to open any sooner than that. So as soon as the business and the owner do what they need to do, we can do the appropriate sign-offs, or a private certifier can do the appropriate sign-offs, and everyone can move on with their lives.
Cool. Well, that's great. Looking forward to it being open down the track.
Yeah, likewise.
The next one, New England Weeds Authority, this is just that slow-moving car crash. Two things that I'd want to raise with you. One, it really is a bit operational, but the second one really comes to you personally. So the first thing I'd like to ask you is, on social media I've seen that the ratepayers of Armidale are going to be on the hook for some money to bail it out, and I think we'd indicated that you'd put, there's some reserves set aside. So that was one. And the second one was you as a general manager of Armidale Regional Council should have been across this because it is in effect a subsidiary of Armidale Regional Council. So I'll let you answer those two questions in any order.
Thanks, Sam. I heard something. I'm not on Facebook for those that might be interested in that, and 5 years sober from that particular social media platform. So I don't see all of this stuff, but you do hear about it from time to time. And I did hear earlier in the week at the aforementioned Armidale Regional Ratepayers Association meeting that the impost on council financially wouldn't be that great. Well, I can tell you that it is going to be great.
What sort of dollars are we talking?
Well, we've set aside $500,000 now just to help bail them out. I suspect that's not going to be enough. I think we're going to need more moving forward. I would suspect that once the other rumour, the myth to bust, is that I also heard that what was being stated on Monday night that the builder had been paid. That is not true. That is incorrect. That he is still to be paid. We had a meeting with the administrator earlier this week, and we saw a list of creditors to be paid. And once council stumps up, it said $500,000, and then the other three councils there $250,000. Then the NEWA administrator will be in a better position to be able to settle those accounts. But that hasn't been done to this point. And I suspect there's going to be a call on us for some more funds moving forward. I suspect towards the end of this calendar year, October, November, that organisation is going to be in a cash deficit would be my view of my reading of the financials that I'm seeing now, and so that's going to be the gift that keeps on taking, unquestionably. And as to your second part about my involvement, and I actually had zero, and I mean zero involvement in the Weeds Authority until just before it went into administration, and that's when the general manager of the Weeds Authority came and wanted some support from council to act as a guarantor for a loan that they were looking to take out so they could build or make the final payments on the construction of the building that they'd already commenced building, and they found out that they were $700,000 short and needed the councils to stump up as guarantor so they could take a loan out to pay, to finish paying the builder and all of those sorts of things, because they'd eaten through their reserves. So that was the first any interaction that I'd had with Weeds. And as you would know, Sam, this council appointed three of our elected councillors as board members to oversee the governance of that organisation. We as an organisation never got any reporting back in any way, shape or form about what the state of play was with the Weeds Authority, and I guess like anything, you assume no news is good news. So, that's. But I say it was only earlier this year that I became in any way aware of what they were doing, and that was around their request to council, which came forward from Councillor Robinson as a notice of motion that council support as a guarantor its share of a loan to finish paying and the builders and other debt that had been accrued courtesy of the building of that building that realistically they couldn't afford to build in the first instance.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that. Let's call that cleared.
Indeed. I guess the other one, a big one, Sam, as we sit here the day before we're about to go into caretaker, or only hours perhaps before we're about to go into caretaker, are the upcoming local government elections. Over to you. What's been happening in Sam's world?
Well, I've just come from the ballot draw, and this council election looks a little different. So we have 6 groups, 6 above-the-line groups.
Wow, right.
Last time we had 3. We had Labor, Greens and Councillor O'Connor had a group there, and then the rest of us who got elected, and I think we're all in the unaligned independent column.
Yes.
So...
And that's a pretty big group from memory too.
It was. I don't know, it's 15, 16-ish people there. So It certainly was the longest line there. Now we've got the 6 groups. and I apologise for those. I won't get the name of the groups right, but I'll talk about who's leading them. So Labor have a group, Greens have a group, local businessman Rob Tabor's, he's got a group there. I've put a group together of aligned independents. So those that think similarly. So I'm one of 4 existing councillors that are running, and we have 4 new candidates. So we're actually the biggest group with eight candidates running.
Yeah, right.
There's a group really Guyra-centric, headed by a chap called Imad. He's running. Councillor O'Connor's running, and I've probably forgotten another group.
Oh, no, I think that might be the 6 groups, and then there's 6 unaligned independents. So right.
there's going to be 7 columns for people to choose from, either vote above the line or below the line. And
was the ballot draw was done today? Were you saying
the ballot draw was done half an hour ago?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So my group drew the middle column.
Yeah.
So
right.
column D.
Column D, right. Okay, very good.
So, happy with that.
You happy with that?
Yep. Yeah. Well, it is, it fell where it fell, but it's, what's interesting, I think there's a total of 40 candidates running in this election. Last time it was about 38, I think.
Yes.
So I don't know whether that's, how to read that. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? If you had your optimistic hat on, you'd say, oh, look, a lot of people want to run because all the hard work was done in this current council term.
Yeah,
so, we've made ourselves financially viable. All the strategic planning that had been missing for 20 years has been done. So that strategic planning statement, the housing strategy, we've actually done something with water security, not just talked about it.
Yep.
So there's all of the heavy lifting's been done. So if you're optimistic, you'd say, well, a bunch of people want to get on board and continue that journey. Or if you're pessimistic, you'd say, well, that's a vote of, a lot of disaffected people out there, and therefore you've got, a number of new groups and fresh individuals who are looking to change direction. So this is, personal thinking is that this is a really, really important election, and I guess all of them are, but this is going to be one of those pivotal points where Armidale, certainly from my perspective, has done a hell of a lot of work. It's fixed its reputation within the community and, more importantly, with the state government.
And it is very solid.
And it's financially solid.
Yep.
All of those things. So, do we continue that and start to build, on the foundation that's been laid, or do we change course? And it's well and truly out of my hands. So, the ultimate performance review will be held on the 14th of September.
Yeah, well done. Welcome to my world.
Yeah, well, it's yours.
Just on the election, again, I mentioned earlier that I'd spoken at R earlier this week, and, one of the questions or one of the things that I chatted about was what I thought one of the biggest issues, and I'll ask you that in a second, and I made the comment to the group that the biggest issue for me from this new council will be coming in and setting the goalpost nice and early about what they want and with the strategic direction that they want to head. And I made the point that I think we're really in good shape at the minute where we're headed, and the goalposts were set by the new by this current council, and we knew where we were headed rather than that sort of mosquito fleet where you're just chasing the ball any which way it goes. But and hopefully the new council would be elected, come in, set the goalposts as they are now, and so we can continue with the great work and getting the results that we are. But if they're going to be set differently, then set them nice and early and be really clear on what they are, so we've got a blueprint that we need to follow. Yeah. But I'd be keen to hear, from you, I guess, should you be elected or re-elected, what you would sort of see some of the key issues for the next 4 years of your term.
Oh, look, the big one, and again, this is based on the assumption that I'm re-elected to council, and then, whether or not from there I'm elected as mayor. But even put the mayor thing to the side, I think the big issue that really needs to be addressed is how we're going to deal with the renewable energy zone coming here. So, sometime in the next 4 years, we'll see the construction of the transmission line, which will also start to see, probably towards the back end of this coming council term, the construction of a lot of the proposed wind farms. So that means that the housing piece that we've looked at, that's why that's absolutely critical, and we can take charge of, where workers are going to be accommodated, how they're going to be accommodated, water as well. If we've got, say, on average 2,000 high-vis workers here over a 10-year period, and all the ancillary work that brings, how are we going to water them? How are we going to? So there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities there. The other one is just making sure that the state government investment, let's call it the community agreement or the social compact or social contract that they're going to want to enter into with not just Armidale but the wider New England. The money that the state government is likely to invest and spend here, that it's invested and spent, in accordance with what's in the best interest of the community. Yeah. And it's consistent with the council strategy that has been fed by the community. So, I reckon there's a lot of opportunity to continue that growth agenda that we've started on, and we'll see that turbocharged in the next in this coming term. So I'm really excited about this coming term. I am really, really hopeful I get re-elected. That's one of the reasons that I was keen to pull that group together so that people had a choice. They knew exactly who was going for growth. Because I just would hate to see that derailed. Yeah.
Now, we were in Sydney last week for a regional cities and country mayors and part of the Coalition of Renewable Energy Mayors meeting that group that you founded and chair. But Penny Sharp seems to be always knocking on your door and wanting some advice. How did that meeting go?
Yeah, that was a good one. I went along with a few other mayors as well from New England, but also the Central West. And look, I've got a really good dialogue going, not just with the minister herself, but her advisors. So that seems to be working well. They're listening to the concerns, and I think being quite proactive and really being proactive in terms of wanting to seek feedback from what's happening on the ground. And help get that to make sense. So I think I've got a really good conduit to where it matters. Yeah, for sure. And that hasn't been without that hasn't just landed on my lap. That's been through, using a number of different means to get there. But we're in a good space, and I think that means that the region, Armidale Regional, but also the broader New England, is in a good space for what's coming. And as I said, we can't stop this. We can shape it, and if we didn't have the access that we now have, the shaping would be well and truly out of our hands. Absolutely, yeah. And the draft wind and solar guidelines that have been developed. Any idea when the final of those will drop? We did ask her, and she said, "Look, that really is the Department of Planning, but it's meant to be weeks away." Yeah, great. And this is the documentation that should have been done probably 10 years ago. Yeah, or at least 5. But if it wasn't started then, now's the best time to get it done. That's great. No, well, that's very good. And we had, I guess, just on regional cities that we both attended last week, I'm never ceased to amaze the level of access that we get to premiers and ministers through that forum. You were really impressed with that, weren't you? We had quite a few high-powered people come and speak to us, the Premier, and 2 visits from the Minister for Local Government, Ron Honig. Who else did we have come through? We had the Police Minister there at one point, although she had to leave pretty quickly. That's right. We had the Deputy Commissioner, Paul Pasanos. He's exactly who you want your cop to be, don't you? Absolutely, yeah. He was fantastic, and just the level of work that they're doing, around the state and particularly in regional areas to deal with youth crime and some of those systemic issues. It's a big focus, isn't it? It's a huge focus, yeah. No, I just thought it was an absolutely fantastic forum. And then our former local government minister, Wendy Tuckerman, dropped in and just talked about where things are at from Leader of the Nats, Dougal Saunders, and Dave Lazelle.
Dave Lazelle, yeah.
He's the Shadow Roads guy.
And then we had a couple, one of the key issues and key topics that's not only impacting Armidale and region, but state more broadly, worldwide more broadly, really, that issue of affordable housing.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of senior members from the Department of Housing and Homes New South Wales come and do some presentations and talk about where the government are up to in terms of rolling out affordable and social housing and the relationships and collaboration that they're building with local government partners. So it all bodes nicely.
And that sort of thing falls into your bailiwick. If we're talking about operational stuff and working with the state government for that affordable and social housing or key worker housing.
Yes.
What do we need from the state government, do you reckon?
I think
we as in Armidale.
Yeah, well, I guess the first thing I would say is that we've through the housing strategy that I know we've talked about previously in our discussions, which incidentally was adopted at the Extraordinary Council meeting on the 6th of August, and created and I can talk a little bit more about that in a second, but one of the key parts of that document is around the affordable housing and where that might go, and we know, and again, this might not please some people, but we know that the old Javal school site would be an ideal place to put an affordable housing development. It's got some good open space around it that could be really picturesque and some nice views, or a mixture of affordable housing and others. So, I guess from our perspective, what we would like the state to do is just make a move on that site, and we'd be keen to try and acquire it some way, shape, or form. So to be able to do that, but I think realistically, probably from a state government perspective, maybe just take the blinkers off a little bit and look a bit further afield than Sydney Metro in terms of where they're putting funding in for this type of development and housing. And there's very few regional areas where they're really sort of dipping their toe in the water. I think they might be up at the Tweed, but that's clearly because of issues that come out of Queensland. But, if we could, see some funding materialise that would allow us to work in step with Homes New South Wales. They're a new government entity that have been formed for this. And we had to actually have a collaboration or a partnership agreement with them. So that is working incredibly well. And they are working with us to look at some sites. But really, we just need them to free up some cash. One of the things the housing strategy has identified for us is that we've got our own land stocks that we can provide to any of these developments. So we can play our role. It's just we probably need those state agencies to come to the or state or federal agencies to come to the party with some money so we could build some stuff. And
I just on Javal there, it's really up to the Department of Education whether they want to keep that site or not.
It is, yes.
There's some in the community, in fact, quite a few in the community that, and I'm one of those that thinks just having one state high school here is a risk. But again, this is a symptom of that low population.
Yes, exactly.
That we've just got to get out of. The state government is not going to give us the things we want if they think we're not growing. So, the closure of Javal or the not reopening of it or not building another state high school is because of a low population. Having, shortages of doctors, nurses, all of those sorts of things is a symptom of low population. The state only has a finite amount of nurses, doctors and other professionals, educators that they can deploy, and they're going to give it to the growing areas. And there's just probably, if I was to think about this coming election campaign, one of the downsides of having been on council and also being the mayor and quite an engaged mayor, particularly with the state, is that I know how these things work. So I can't plead naivety in making these bold predictions such as, I'll fill out a grant application and all of a sudden, a new hospital will be built, or if I just knock on the door, the education minister will build us another high school.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, fun and games.
And it really gets down, at some point you can stick your hand out and want all those things to happen, as you say, but in many ways you've got to be the master of your own destiny in the first instance, and that was that message that continued to be laboured through, the reason for the special rate variation, the reason for the strategic planning. It was really about being the masters of our own destiny, creating our own livable region and somewhere that people really want to come, getting our water security sorted. So again, when business does roll up and say we need, X number of kilolitres a year or gigalitres a year, we're in a position where we can say yes rather than maybe, or we'll get back to you. And so, and you've got to spend money to do that. You've got to spend money to get the region right, get the planning right, and create that dynamic sort of environment where people are really attracted to. And so I think we've done that. This term of council has really been great at doing that, and the future bodes well moving forward. But what a great problem to have though in the future, that we had all of these people and we had to say we got too many people, we need a new hospital, we need more police, we need more schools, we need more childcare centres to be built. People would be beating their door down to get here and provide all those sorts of services if only they could see that the population was on the increase rather than the decline or flatlining. So great problem to have. Yeah, great problem to have. Brilliant region strategy.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah. How did you feel about all that?
Absolutely chuffed that our one of my fellow councillors, Paul Gadders, who he was certainly from a council point of view, a council law view, he was a leader on that, and that's I wouldn't say I'm a Luddite. I'm a tech enthusiast who's really got no knowledge behind it. I just I use tech but have nothing really behind it. So, we're really blessed to have Paul Gadders there with his corporate background in IT to be able to talk about that. But the brilliant region strategy, you might be able to fill in some of the gaps for me, James. It's a bit of an umbrella of all things tech. There'll be all these little sub-projects underneath it, such as the smart water meters, the automated solar bins is going to be another one. I guess the purple air monitors, a whole bunch of things that we can do that'll feed into a bit of a part of the overall council operations to reduce waste and make it easier for officers, make it easier for the community. But and look, I think that's really well said, and I think largely again we've adopted the strategy or and a policy position at that level, and essentially what it'll mean is that everything that we do from a now when we're going out to tender, we'll build into the tender documentation and talk about the use of the most latest technology, or the use of whatever it might be, the use of drones, the use of smart bins, the use of the smart water meters. The sky's the limit, but just making sure that everything that we do sort of relates back to that brilliant region strategy and is smart in terms of how it operates. The lights that we're building, as we're building the next stage 2 of the cycle path out to UNE with smart lighting, again relying purely on solar to light that area up, and that'll be fantastic. And it all aligns nicely back to what we're trying to do to reduce money, be smarter about how we do things. And one of the big key considerations for council in the next term will be just around whether it rolls the smart water meters out sort of progressively over a 5 to 10 year period, or whether we bite the bullet and say, right, $4 million to do the whole program right across the council area, and if we do it over a calendar year and split it into 2 financial years, we sort of lessen the burden of that $4 million. So there's a couple of opportunities there, and I dare say that if council did decide to do the whole lot in one go over the 2 financial years, we would be one of the leading councils in terms of the rollout of that technology, but then making sure that it's just all aligned back to an app. People can very quickly see their water use if they've got leakages, and we can very quickly resolve any of those issues, and we'd be one of the leaders in that space. So the world's our oyster, really, moving forward as far as this next council goes, and just looking forward to it will be good. I mean, in this current term, we got together, I think, in the first month, and just had a bit of a growth, to land on that growth strategy. I think in the new council, it'd be really good to have a similar, half day, full day forum where all the councils get to talk about what do they want, but genuinely a bit of some of the nitty-gritty planning. What are some of the projects that they'd like to see happen in this term?
Fantastic.
Feed that through. Your team can put it into the plans, make sure it's consistent with the overall strategic plan that's been fed up by the community. And I think we'd need to do that really early.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to deliver on a lot of that because of the work that's been done. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, maybe now I'm the optimist. That's why there's so many people running for council, because they can see opportunity and good things to happen.
It gets back to that very, perhaps we overuse it at times, but it really is just setting those goalposts and being clear on where we're headed. And then together we chart the course that gets us there. And, everyone might have slightly different, for as long as we know where we're going, everyone might have slightly different routes or directions they take to get there, but we know where the end goal is, and that's the most important thing for us. I guess lastly, Sam, just before we head off, Guyra Memorial Park.
Yeah, wasn't that cool?
It was.
The Progress Association, Rotary, I can't remember. Lions. There's a bunch of real go-getters up there in Guyra, and they came to council with a suggestion that we rename a portion of the park there, the Memorial Park. It was no longer Apex, I think it was, Apex Park, to Memorial Park, and that ties in with the Mandala, I believe.
Yes, Mandala Garden,
The Mandala Garden, so I just wasn't sure of the naming.
Isn't that a ripper, by the way?
It is.
Haven't David and the team up there done a super job pulling that together?
They have. I saw David and Donna last night, and it's great what the team have done up there, and it's been really good that the council's been able to get that through, rename it Memorial Park, as a tribute to those who gave a much bigger sacrifice than we have.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is fantastic. The Guyra Gardening Club do a fantastic job up there. Yeah. Well, Sam, that probably brings us to an end. This is actually, sadly, probably because of caretaker and leading into the election, going to be the last one of these that you do. But if it's all right, I might invite someone in a couple of weeks' time to just sit opposite me, someone that isn't you, and we can maybe sort of focus in on a couple of departments of council. I
think that'd be great. And look, if this really is my last one ever, I'd just like to press this button because in the podcast, all these things have been too difficult to press. So thank you, James. And with this, off we go. Thanks, listeners.